Parliament this week saw the second reading of the government's new border security bill. Simultaneously, the Home Office dropped a press release saying that nearly 19,000 foreign criminals and people with no right to be in the UK have now been removed since the government took office. Foreign criminals, those are the words, and people with no right to work. It is clearly incendiary language, and in typical British news fashion, the TV headlines regurgitated it.
The government today announced the fruits of its efforts to deport foreign criminals and illegal migrants.
Thousands of illegal migrants and foreign criminals have been deported.
We have images of illegal migrants and foreign offenders being deported.
So those are clips from Sky News, Channel 5 and GB News. We should note that when assessing coverage from BBC and Channel 4, we didn't find parroting of the foreign criminals line, as rightfully they shouldn't do, because this conflation between undocumented immigrants and criminals is incredibly dangerous and disingenuous rhetoric.
Right, exactly. You say illegal and it conjures up questions of morality, right? But legal status is not about morality. It's often totally arbitrary, which may explain why the Home Office fails to declare exactly how many foreign criminals make up the nearly 19,000 people that they have deported, opting to only state that the number is up 21% over the previous 6 months.
The news coverage was accompanied helpfully by some pretty revolting images supplied by the government of workplaces being raided and people being escorted onto planes, which we won't be sharing on this podcast. Just as we record this morning, we've also heard the news that anybody who has arrived outside of legal routes, including asylum seekers with valid claims, will be refused citizenship. For some reason, I'm really struggling with this week. And I'm really struggling with this sort of latest outbreak of anti-immigrant feeling. The government releasing images as a kind of propaganda exercise has really sat poorly with me.
Yeah.
It feels like performative cruelty.
There's been a constant drip feed of, let's be honest, racist, anti-migrant rhetoric for, at least 10 years. What Labour's doing, how is it different to the go-home vans? How is it different to anything that Reform have been doing? In fact, actually, when Labour have been publicising this work, they've been using Reform colours, which, shows you how unoriginal this all is. This is hostile environment all over again, right? But just putting aside my own feelings of moral disgust around it, I don't even get it politically. I don't understand it. You're never going to out-reform. Also, you've just taken their argument that this is the single biggest threat to the UK. You've just taken that from them. You've agreed with their premise. You've pushed no counter. How does that even make sense to do that if you're opposed to that party? I don't even understand it.
The logic here is that you can head off the far right by essentially a programme of rhetorical and policy-based appeasement. But there are almost too numerous amount of studies that are warning people that doesn't work. And all it does is legitimizes a program of anti-immigrant policy and cruel rhetoric that just results in far-right parties making electoral gains. Because actually, at the end of the day, you can do all of this crap, but when it comes to an election, the far-right parties will still say, we can go further. We can go further. And all you're doing is legitimizing this idea that immigrants pose a threat to your way of life, or immigrants are a drain on resources that are preventing you from being able to pay your heating bills or buy groceries. And this is really the crux of everything that I'm frustrated about here, right? There are so many moral arguments that we can make about how we treat the most vulnerable people on this planet. There are so many moral arguments that we can make about the rhetoric that we should be using and the policies that we should be enacting. But let me also just ask, who is this benefiting?
Yes.
Okay, who is this benefiting? Does this policy help you pay your heating bill? No. Does this policy help you pay for your groceries as bills skyrocket? No, it does not. It does absolutely nothing to improve the lives of people in this country. Most people in this country, I'm told, just want to get a train to see a doctor. This programme from the Labour Party does not help that at all. Who is benefiting from this? And when they talk about delivery, why is this the only thing they seem to be able to deliver on? Constantly, Keir Starmer has been going on about delivery. What have they actually delivered? What concrete policies have they actually delivered, apart from deporting vulnerable people? We want them to deliver, but what we want them to deliver on is better services on the NHS, is better public services, better public transport. But all they seem to be delivering on is something that is designed to appease Nigel Farage, and it will never work. The Labour Party is determined to sign its own electoral death warrant.
The one glimmer of hope that I tried to take from this horrible, this grim mess was that the government said it was also targeting the employers who exploit these people. It's a subject that really irks me, that you go for the workers and not the people who exploit them. And so they're trying to contort to themselves and say, no, we're doing this to sort of be good or be kind. But fundamentally, when they release the footage, they don't release any footage of the employers being cracked down on. The sorts of business they have been cracking down on are things like nail salons and car washes. These are famously environments where it's modern slavery, right? Yeah. And so, I mean, you're going after the slaves rather than the slave masters, which I find a little bit grim, despite what they say. There was a bust recently in Bristol where a number of undocumented migrant workers were removed, arrested. Some were taken to detention centres. There was a quote from one of the women affected in The Guardian. I just want to read it out. She says, they arrived around 4 a.m, so these are the immigration officers, knocking very hard and shouting to open the caravan doors. Many of us woke up scared. I'm outraged. Fathers and mothers being searched as if they were animals. We are workers, not criminals.
Yeah, I don't know what consolation it is to someone drinking tap water that's filled with shit that they've deported some people out of this country.
Yeah.
Next time you're glugging down a pint of human feces, to think, well, on the plus side, at least some incredibly vulnerable people have been treated poorly and we had photographic evidence.
Oh, my God. So the government suggests that it's going to be doing more to make the asylum system fairer and clamp down on people smuggling. I love the way they always say claim asylum and they don't use the word refugees. Because you say the word refugees and it emotes a feeling of humanity and they refuse to do it. But anyway, these vague promises certainly don't mean much, and asylum campaign groups aren't happy either. So here's Nathan Phillips from Asylum Matters.
This is an asylum bill with no asylum policies. It's just a rehash of the same old failed deterrence policies that criminalise people seeking asylum, that lock up refugees and have no impact on crossings, other than driving up deaths. There is nothing on safe routes, which is the only way to actually disrupt smuggling gangs. There's nothing on the right to work, despite 81% of the British public backing lifting the ban, and it generating 1.5 billion of that ever-elusive economic growth thereafter. There is nothing on overhauling substandard asylum accommodation, ensuring people are housed in communities, not camps, barracks and barges that private contractors are making a killing off. There's nothing on asylum support rates, which are currently a poverty packet of just £1.25 a day for those in hotels, driving people into the hands of exploiters. Instead, it's more of the same old failed policies, more criminalisation of people seeking asylum, more border violence, more performative cruelty. And it's playing with fire after the racist riots we saw in our streets last summer. This bill is a disgrace and they need to go back to the drawing board, guys.
It's very sobering to hear people who have actually studied these issues talk about the legislation that's being pushed through. And listen, if this is pissing you off and you want to get involved, you can sign up to the Fight the Anti-Refugee Laws pledge, which is linked to in our show notes. There you can also find a template letter and briefings that you can send to your MP. There's even a template motion that you can ask your local councillors to pass.